thank you, Petite. I hope you're having a good day so far. How are you doing? Welcome in, everyone. Okay.
Okay.
Say, are you there?
Yeah, I muted my mic for a second. Okay. Let me get my Twitch back up because I was.
Petite, we both just woke up.
Yeah, I'm not a morning person. This is like early ass o'clock to me.
Yeah, that's why Rockstar doesn't like my new work schedule. It's because he has to wake up early.
Don't matter. I went to bed really super early because I was exhausted after yesterday. So I'm fine.
I went to bed at 2:30, I think, because that's my new normal now. So I don't get home from work until like midnight.
Nah, because I have to stay up late. But like yesterday, I was just so exhausted. It was like 1 o'clock, and I'm like in the morning. I was like, I'm gonna go to bed. And when you messaged me at 10:30, I was like, yeah, let me wait till 11. I put a timer on. That's why I didn't respond for so long. I was like, we're talking about we go back to sleep for another 20 minutes. He said 11.
My alarm went off at like 9:30, and then I'm like, hey, I'll sleep 10 more minutes, and I didn't get up for another hour. That's why I usually don't go to sleep after my alarm goes off.
Yeah.
I need to stop forgetting to take my medication. Yeah, you need to take your medicine, Petite. That's something you need to do. If you're on medication, make sure you take it everywhere. Up pretty late. Hey, so did we.
So do we. I woke up early. I'm usually not up till noon. So I need my sleeps. Anyway, we're not talking about sleep. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a writer that both me and Vlason love and cherish. A man that has influenced so many people, from other authors out there and even manga artists out there.
Yep.
We're talking today about H.P. Lovecraft. Now, why are we talking about H.P. Lovecraft, Aslan?
Because his birthday is Tuesday.
His birthday is August 20th because he was born on August 20th. So anybody out there, who is H.P. Lovecraft?
Like, I actually have a little blurb about him.
Well,
I never knew his. You know what his full name is?
Howard Phillips Lovecraft.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Because I have the book open right now.
He's an American author of odd tales and horror stories. He died unknown and in poverty. Achieved great acclaim after his death.
Right, it's similar to Emily Dickinson, except the difference between Lovecraft and Dickinson, of course, was like he wrote horror science fiction, and she wrote like love stories and stuff like that.
No, Dickinson was famous for her poetry, and I could not read her poetry to save my life.
Was it, or was it Jane Austen?
Jane Austen was the story writer.
No, it was something. It was a certain author. Hold on.
I don't know if Emily Dickinson ever wrote stories. I know Emily Bronte did.
Hold on.
I couldn't read her stuff either.
Hold on. Tick. It was Dickinson. Because she was not that she wrote stories, but that both of these authors have one common, or writers I should say, is that they both didn't become famous until after their death, because Dickinson lived in isolation and she just was, I think it was her sister's like, oh, go ahead and publish this. She's like, nah, I don't want to. And then after her death, her sister published them for her.
Yep.
Lovecraft was similar because he was writing good stories, and just they would always get published in like pulp fiction magazines. Like Strange Tales was the number one thing. They actually have
Yeah.
you can look it online. They have the cover arts of that, and some of them have actually been posted onto written works of Lovecraft, like compilations on published books. Let's see.
So, if anyone is interested, I have a bunch of his like short stories, like on this webpage.
Mm-hmm.
I could read one, but I have to
Oh,
wake up more. I have to wake up more first.
Oh no, we're gonna each read our favorite. We're gonna each read our favorite one. I already picked mine.
Oh, I know what yours is.
Yeah. Here's the funny thing. He was actually, at the age of 7, he started writing, producing both short horror stories, later inspired by Edgar Allan Poe, whose discovery at the age of 8 thrilled him, and scientific treasuries. So Lovecraft was publishing Pulp Magazine's Weird Tales. Sorry, it wasn't Strange Tales. Weird Tales. He did go to college and everything. He did marry. I can't remember. I'm trying to find his wife's name. Yeah. He did marry, but again, he was still writing. He was really trying to get his works published, and I think it was actually his most famous story, The Call of Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
That's Cthulhu. People just pronounce it weird.
The call of Kahlua.
Kahlua. Because it's supposed to be that the TH is like guttural.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be alien form, but like people it's like Cthulhu, Cthulhu, so whatever. Was actually denied by the publisher at Weird Tales because him and Lovecraft really didn't get along. Sadly, Lovecraft died. I believe. Get his death date up. Let me get his thing up because it doesn't specify in the book his exact death date. March 15th, 1937. He died in March 15th, 1937.
He was only cancer. Like 50. He was only in his 50s.
46.
Yeah.
He died of cancer, and he died in poverty because he used the last of his parents' inheritance until he died. So he died in poverty and left his, wife. Him and his wife stayed married until his death. Her name was Sonia Green. But she was a publisher. Did not know that.
Oh, she was?
Well, she was a publisher.
I was about to say, was she the one who published?
No, she was a one-time Pulp Fiction writer, amateur publisher, businesswoman, and milliner. What the hell's a milliner? Oh, a hat maker. She was only married to Lovecraft for 2 years until he died. Coffee's awesome indeed. Yes, it is. I wish I had some, but I don't. If we can get I want to get the exact thing. Give me a second. Jesus fucking Christ. These kids. Damn, there was a thing I saw that it was that the publisher, after a while after Lovecraft's death, felt sorry for what he did to Lovecraft in life, that he actually went and published the stories he originally denied as sort of as a post-mortem, like, here, let me publish these, and they hit like wildfire, and that's how Lovecraft became famous. And now we look at him as one of the most revolutionizing writers. He's up there with Edgar Allan Poe as one of the top horror writers.
Yeah.
But he was the first writer in his genre to mix both the horror and science fiction together with his own, what they call the Cthulhu mythos. Which the Cthulhu mythos, anybody's interested, is pretty much all the
If you
elder
if you've ever heard the
beings.
word deep one or old one, it usually refers to his mythology in some way.
The
Like
mythology.
in the Thursday campaign, fucking Chris is our paladin. Her name is Callie, and she specializes in the deep. So she will just randomly turn things into writhing masses of tentacles. And it's just like, why? And because one little side trip we did, we actually went to the deep. It's freaking weird. Then one of my other friends did a campaign where the deck of many things was a thing. And then an old one randomly got summoned from the deck and we had to fight it. Yes, that was fun. So, adventures in D&D.
Actually, enough. Lovecraft has an award named after him.
Does he?
It's the World Fantasy Award.
World Fancy Award?
Fantasy.
Oh, fantasy. I thought you said fancy. I'm like, what?
Fantasy Award. They made a bust out of his head,
Nice.
like an actual bust. But there's a lot of controversy around it.
Why is there controversy?
Because Lovecraft in life was a racist.
I mean, so were most famous people.
Yeah.
Because that was the times.
Yeah, it was author. Oh, usually several authors began to object to using the author of H.P. Lovecraft as the symbol of the awards, given his outspoken racism. Though others, such as Lovecraft's biographer S.T. Josen, claimed that Lovecraft's attitudes were not considered extreme at the time. I mean, this was like 1920 something. It's like the 1920s. Winners Oakford and Chai have noted in 2011 that they disliked being honored by a bust of a man who had been found many of the winners who have found many of the winners and nominees distasteful because of their race. Several authors and editors argue for the trophy to be changed, including. Okay, yeah, 2005 they stopped using his head as it. It's
But,
now a.
and then Andrew Jackson was a racist, and we still keep him on 20.
Right.
So.
We can't. I mean, yes, if you read Lovecraft, there are hints of racism in there. But again, this is 1920 something. I think everybody back then was one. I'm not condoning racism. We're not condoning it.
We're not condoning racism. In fact, racism will get you banned in my channel.
Right.
So don't do it.
I despise racism, but when you read it, it's there's even warnings in the beginning in some of the books, like saying, yeah, look, there's some racist parts. Hell, even in the fucking video games I own that are inspired by Lovecraft, they said, hey, there's some racism in here. We're not condoning it. We're just trying to keep it true with the story.
Yeah, it's like watching those old Looney Tunes cartoons where they do the exact same thing. It's like this is in here, but it was just what they used back then. We don't condone it.
Right. And a lot of those old Looney Tunes shorts they got rid of because they're really too racist.
Oh yeah.
Like the one with the Japanese guy where they really made him look the most generic, like how everybody's like, oh, that's how they look like. But we're not talking about racism. We're talking about Lovecraft. So that's a little bit of the history of the man. known as H.P. Lovecraft. Now, me personally, I own 4 different collections of Lovecraft's work, and I don't know how many. You only have the one, right?
I only have one,
Which we both have that
which we
same one.
both
He got
have. Yeah.
because I started off with H.P. Lovecraft Great Tales of Horror, which is what the first one I ever bought. And then I ordered called H.P. Lovecraft The Complete Cthulhu Mythos Tales, which is just everything about Cthulhu mythos, because not all Lovecraft stories is about Cthulhu. There's some other good ones that are like,
Oh my god. I'm gonna mute myself.
okay, I'll keep going.
Okay.
Okay,
I hate
then
having to.
there's the other one I bought, which is the Call of Cthulhu and Other Dark Tales, because that one had my favorite story by Lovecraft, which we'll get to later. And then finally, I bought this big fucking monster of it called H.P. Lovecraft The Complete Fiction. This is every single written work of Lovecraft. If you're interested in picking this up, not sponsored, Barnes & Noble sells it.
Yeah, because that's the one I have.
This has every single written work of H.P. Lovecraft in it. It's awesome. It's super fucking thick, and it comes in like a leather bound.
Well, it's like faux leather.
I mean, the Cthulhu Mythos one I have is actually like leather. It's leather
Nice.
bound and it has like the little ribbon for your bookmark, which is kind of like makes it old fashioned. It just looks cool when you look at it on your bookshelf and you're like, wow, because it looks like an old fashioned book. So, Vaslin, when was the first time you ever read Lovecraft?
Probably in high school when Jordan introduced me to it.
Hmm. And what was the first story you ever read?
The Call of Cthulhu.
Uh, Actually, funny enough, I was the first time I ever read H.P. Lovecraft was in high school too, because I went to our library and I found a book of H.P. Lovecraft. Searched, I was just kind of like wandering around in there, and I stumbled upon it. It wasn't a really big tome, and it wasn't really just H.P. Lovecraft. It was like a mixture of other writers. But the one
Yeah.
story that was in there was The Terrible Old Man. I didn't do research on Lovecraft until years later. Um, but then years later I started reading it because to anybody out there who's like, "Ooh, I actually want to try to read Lovecraft." He's very, very hard to read. I'm not calling you
Oh yeah,
stupid. It's
totally is. It's
he's
just the
very.
way he wrote. Just the way a lot of people wrote then.
It's a lot of description. It's a lot of using different. Can't think of the word. What's the word I'm looking for? Literary devices that you have to really, really pay attention. Like if you have to like try to keep in the back of your mind about what they're talking for, because Lovecraft will kind of go off about certain other things and use different old time words. But if you read like, because I read a lot of Poe, and Poe kind of did the same thing, so it was a little bit easier for me. But it took me a while to get used to Lovecraft, because if I were to hand this to somebody who's never read him, they would be like cross-eyed.
Yeah, they told.
It's like we're not calling you stupid. It's just like look up a short story by him. I've even listened to guys on YouTube who have read Lovecraft, such as GM Danielson on YouTube. If you want to check him out, we're not sponsored. I just if you want to listen, it might be easier if you listen to some of his stories before you actually read them on your own. This way, you get a better understanding.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of them. The Call of Cthulhu, which is a 3-part one. Terrible Old Man, Dagon, which is another one of my favorites. I'm trying to remember the name of them. There's some other ones that were really good. Some of them I never got to read yet.
There's a lot in there.
There's a lot.
My
The Beast in the
favorite one.
Cave.
My favorite one that I don't know if it's in there or not is the Statement of Randolph Carter.
The Statement of Randolph Carter. I'm gonna find out in 2 seconds because I have that book in front of me. The Horror Red Hook is another one that the Pickman's model.
Yeah.
What was that again?
The Statement
Case.
of Randolph Carter.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I didn't think it was in there.
But it's supposed to be every written word.
I actually found it.
Oh no, there it is. Yeah, it's in here.
Yeah, for some reason,
46.
is it labeled as the first, or is it just Statement of Randolph Carter?
No, it's the Statement of Randall Carter. It's on page 76 in that book. But even because I watched some of J.M. Danielson's YouTube live streams, and people have asked him why he doesn't do more Lovecraft, and he's explained, he's like, Lovecraft's very hard to read. And it's like he has to put a lot of time and effort because he's like, I've had to, if I stumble on a word, I have to restart. Like
Yeah.
when he stumbles on a sentence, he's got to restart and try to blend it. He says Lovecraft's very, very hard to read. He's like, I want to read some more, and I love Lovecraft, but it's just very hard to read. And I can understand because when I first, Terrible Old Man's a good one to get started on because it's not that hard to read. But if you read like the Call of Cthulhu or Dagon, like Jesus Christ, or even Pickman's Model, I'm just like, okay, why?
Gotta be slow with it.
You have to be. You
And
can't
take
like
your
speed
time.
read. You can't really speed read it. You have to really take your time.
Unless you're like someone who studies that kind of material, you can't like speed read
Right.
it.
Like if you've read like old literature for a very, very long time, you're good. But if you're like new to it, like if you're reading like fucking Twilight,
It's
like I
like-
want to read Lovecraft.
It's like
No.
reading Shakespeare. You gotta take your time while you do it.
Yeah, and there's no what the fuck are they talking about in the margins, like in your textbooks in English class. You would have to really do the research. Now, some of Lovecraft's influences. This is very interesting. There have been a lot of influences that people are influenced by Lovecraft to write their own stories and stuff. Even old time radio shows, because we talked about in our podcast episodes, the very first episode, the old time radio podcast I listened to, they put up a lot of dramatizations of Lovecraft's work that were done back then.
Yeah.
So they've done like Pickman's Model, and the Pickman's Model one was really fucking creepy. And that was Bram Stoker. They didn't do the Call. I wish they would do the Call of Cthulhu if they ever did that one. But Dunwich Horror, they did that one, was really good. But so I don't know. And then talking about writers, I've talked about him before on podcasts. I think I have, or even on our live streams we did Borderlands. Junji Ito.
Oh yeah.
Bringing him up. He was heavily inspired by Lovecraft. And if anybody out there
shit is
read,
weird.
Yeah, Vaseline. I've tagged Vaseline a couple times on social media when they're showing like stuff on Crunchyroll of the animated stuff, and he was just like the first one he said, like he's like, "What the fuck?"
But my literal comment was, "No need to fuck."
Yeah, because that was Tomy. Junji is heavily inspired by Lovecraft because all the creatures he described. And if anybody out there has ever read Junji or just like looked it up, you can tell because the creatures he invents is like fucking crazy. There have been many video games inspired by Lovecraft's work. For example, the latest game inspired was The Sinking City, which I have started replaying now. That game it's okay.
Yeah, there was Sinking City was the latest. The one before that was Call of Cthulhu, I think.
Well, yeah, that's based off the board game or tabletop game, which again is inspired by the story. Which that one was pretty good. Sinking City so far is pretty good.
Found out Bethesda made one like a long time ago.
Yep. Shit.
It was like early 2000s, I think, or something like that. Around the same time the original Fallouts came out.
Shit, you want to go even further with Bethesda, Skyrim, the whole Dragonborn DLC,
Oh yeah.
the Memphis Morrow, and then all the
Oh,
fucking
the Daedra.
Seekers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all like, if you go in that world, it's like something out of Lovecraft.
Yeah, but that's only Hermaeus Mora's world.
Right. But again, the Seekers, the ones you can actually find the spell and summon,
Yeah.
the big tentacle, those are heavily inspired by Lovecraft. It's, there's a lot of. Sorry, the kids are up and all excited. Shit, I think Resident Evil got inspired by Lovecraft too, because there's a lot of like, I pretty much put it. If there's anything with a tentacled monster that's not the Kraken, it's Cthulhu.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh
Um,
yeah, another D&D story. That same one of the not Thursday's campaign that we're currently doing, but the other one I referenced. We had a scroll show up just randomly, and the DM's like, "Hey, if you read this scroll, I'll let you leave the dungeon." Or I don't remember what we were doing. It was something like that. So we gave it to the barbarian, or no, someone thought it was funny to give it to the barbarian to read it. So, and the barbarian had an int of 6. So the barbarian read it, and I'm not gonna say what the scroll said because it's actually superstition that if you say name, that bad things will happen.
right.
So I'm not actually gonna say it, but
I give everybody a hint. It's a character whose name starts with an H.
yeah. So they said the barbarian read the name 3 times, and the god popped into existence, and we had to fight it.
Yep. Lovecraft's work is also inspired to board games, as we're talking tabletop. Like, I own 2. Eldritch Horror, which is heavily inspired by Lovecraft, because you actually have to fight like Cthulhu and Yog Sothoth and Shub Niggurath and that other guy we're not going to talk about.
Yeah, right.
H man. And then Arkham Horror. And even Unspeakable Words.
Yeah,
It's a Scrabble.
dude, Unspeakable Words has the tiny little Cthulhu figures that.
I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Guys, I'm just looking up. Yeah, anybody who's interested, if you don't like Scrabble, I highly recommend Unspeakable Words. It's so much fun.
It really is.
So much fun.
And then one of the people playing named the tokens that she had.
Oh, don't make a meal of it. Come on.
I'm sorry, it's funny.
I know.
You know, she recently got friend requested by him.
Oh, God.
Yeah, she sent me a screenshot of it.
Oh, God. You gotta show me it later. I'm trying to think what else. There was another author. I don't think I have his work, but anyway. So, Vaseline.
Yes.
We'll get to this part of the show. What is your favorite Lovecraft story? And the one you pick, you have to read.
I already told you.
That is.
Statement of Randolph Carter.
Okay, you go ahead and read it.
Okay.
Do my bidding.
Do your bidding.
Read for while I sleep.
Actually, I'll do it different.
Okay, where is
have it
my...
pulled up here. Oh. Thank you. I'll do it like I did the other one.
Oh, that was another one. Hold on. Before we side note, The Evil Clergyman's another one of my favorites.
Evil Clergyman?
Yeah, that one was really fucking weird. I listened to it on HP Lovecraft's GM Danielson Reddit.
Oh, that's not that long. It's like I said, I have a bunch of them here. This is where I'm
Mhm.
getting all of the ones I have on the computer from.
Oh, ironic, because mine favorite is, and the book is right after yours.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Nice. This
Yep.
one's a
Because
little bit long, but it's not too bad.
I think, let me see. In the book, it's only about like 3 pages front and back.
Yeah, it's not
Mine's
too bad.
mine's only about 2 pages, 2 pages front and back. Well, no, it's actually 1 page front and back, and then half a page. Because if I read Call of Cthulhu, we'd be here all damn day.
Oh, I know. It's that the thing's long.
Oh, cool thing. Actually, hold on. Before you get started, I'm gonna read a little backstory about your story, because they actually have a little biography of when it was published and everything on the top.
Okay.
So, Vaslin's story, The Statement of Randolph Carter. The story is well known is the most exact transcript of a dream that Lovecraft had in December of 1919. As recorded in a letter of December 11th, in the dream, however, the setting seems to be in New England. In the story, Lovecraft has apparently transferred the location to Florida. A lot of Lovecraft stories, side note, a lot of Lovecraft stories are set in like New England area because that's where he lived. He was like in Providence or like Boston. That's where he lived for a majority of his life. It is if the mentions of the Gainesville Pike and Big Crested Swan are any indication. Lovecraft introduces Randolph Carter in his tale. His colleague Harley Warren is a stand-in for Samuel Sloveman, the poet and amateur journalist who figured into Lovecraft's dream. Lovecraft also introduced the element of the Forbidden Book. The story first appeared in The Vanguard, May 1920. Interesting. On to you. I'm going to mute my mic.
Okay. Statement of Randolph Carter by H.P. Lovecraft. Again I say, I do not know what has become of Harley Warren, though I think, almost hope, that he is in peaceful oblivion, if there be anywhere so blessed a thing. It is true that I have for 5 years been his closest friend, and a partial sharer of his terrible researches into the unknown. I will not deny, though my memory is uncertain and indistinct, that this witness of yours may have seen us together, as he says, on the Gainesville Pike, walking toward Big Cypress Swamp at 11:30 that awful night. That we bore electric lanterns, spades, and a curious coil of wire with attached instruments I will even affirm, for these things all played a part in a single hideous scene, which remains buried into my shaken recollection. But of what followed, and of the reason I was found alone and dazed on the edge of the swamp next morning, I must insist that I know nothing save what I have told you over and over again. You say to me that there is nothing in the swamp or near it which could form the setting of that frightful episode. I reply that I know nothing beyond what I saw. Vision or nightmare it may have been. Vision or nightmare I fervently hope it was. Yet it is all that my mind retains of what took place in those shocking hours after we left the sight of men. And why Harley Warren did not return, he or his shade, or some nameless thing I cannot describe, alone can tell. As I have said before, the weird studies of Harley Warren are well known to me, and to some extent shared by me. Of his vast collection of strange, rare books on forbidden subjects I have read, all that are written in the languages of which I am master, but these are few as compared with those in languages I cannot understand. Most, I believe, are in Arabic, and the fiend-inspired book which brought on the end, the book which he carried in his pocket out of the world, was written in characters like those I never saw elsewhere. Warren could never tell me just what was in that book. As to the nature of our studies, I must say again that I no longer retain full comprehension. It seems to me rather merciful that I do not, for they were terrible studies, which I pursued more through reluctant fascination than through actual inclination. Warren always dominated me, and sometimes I feared him. I remember how I shuddered at his facial expression on the night before the awful happening, when he talked so incessantly of his theory, why certain corpses never decay, but the rest firm and fat in their tombs for 1,000 years. But I do not fear him now, for I suspect that he has known horrors beyond my ken. Now I fear for him. Once more I say I have no clear idea of our object on that night. Certainly it had much to do with something in the book which Warren carried with him, that ancient book in indecipherable characters which had come to him from India a month before, but I swear I do not know what it was that we expected to find. Your witness says he saw us at 11:30 on the Gainesville Pike, headed for Big Cypress Swamp. This is probably true, but I have no distinct memory of it. The picture seared into my soul is one of seeing only, and the hour must have been long after midnight, for a waning crescent moon was high in the vaporous heavens. The place was an ancient cemetery, so ancient that I trembled at the manifold signs of immemorial years. It was in a deep, damp hollow, overgrown with rank grass, moss, and curious creeping weeds, and filled with a vague stench which my idle fancy associated absurdly with rotting stone. On every hand were the signs of on every hand were the signs of neglect and decrepitude, and I seemed haunted by the notion that Warren and I were the first living creatures to invade a lethal silence of centuries. Over the valley's rim a wan, waning crescent moon peered through the noisome vapors that seemed to emanate from unheard-of catacombs. By its feeble, wavering beams I could distinguish a repellent array of antique slabs, urns, cenotaphs, and mausoleum facades, all crumbling, moss-grown, and moisture-stained, partially concealed by the gross luxuriance of the unhealthy vegetation. My first vivid impression of my own presence in this terrible necropolis concerns the act of pausing with Warren before a certain half-obliterated sepulchre, and of throwing down some burdens which we seemed to have been carrying. I now observed that I had with me an electric lantern and 2 spades, whilst my companion was supplied with a similar lantern and portable telephone outfit. No word was uttered, for the spot and the task seemed known to us, and without delay we seized our spades and commenced to clear away the grass, weeds, and drifted earth from the flat, archaic mortuary. After uncovering the entire surface, which consisted of 3 immense granite slabs, we stepped back some distance to survey the charnel scene, and Warren appeared to make some mental calculations. Then he returned to the sepulchre, and using his spade as a lever, sought to pry up the slab lying nearest to a stony ruin which may have been a monument in its day. He did not succeed, and motioned me to come to his assistance. Finally, our combined strength loosened the stone, which we raised and tipped to one side. The removal of the slab revealed a black aperture, from which rushed an effluence of miasmal gases so nauseous that we started back in horror. After an interval, however, we approached the pit again, and found the exhalations less unbearable. Our lanterns disclosed the top of a flight of stone steps, dripping with some detestable ichor from the and bordered by moist walls encrusted by nitre. And now for the first time my memory records verbal discourse, Warren addressing me at length in his mellow tenor voice, a voice singularly unperturbed by our awesome surroundings. "I'm sorry to have to ask you to stay on the surface," he said, "but it would be a crime to let anyone with your frail nerves go down there. You can't imagine, even for what you have read and what I have told you, the things I shall have to see and do. It's fiendish work, Carter, and I doubt if any man without ironclad sensibilities could ever see it through and come up alive and sane. I don't wish to offend you, and heaven knows I'd be glad enough to have you with me, but the responsibility is in a certain sense mine, and I couldn't drag a bundle of nerves like you down into probable death or madness. I tell you, you can't imagine what the thing's really like, but I promise to keep you informed over the telephone of every move. You see, I've enough wire here to reach the center of the earth and back." I still hear in memory those coolly spoken words. I still remember my remonstrances. I seemed desperately anxious to accompany my friend into those sepulchral depths, yet he proved inflexibly obdurate. At one time, he threatened to abandon the expedition if I remained insistent, which proved effective, since he alone held the key to the thing. All this I can still remember, although I no longer know what manner of thing he sought. After he had obtained my reluctant acquiescence in his design, Warren picked up the reel of wire and adjusted the instruments. At his nod, I took one of the latter and seated myself upon an age-discolored gravestone close by the newly uncovered aperture. Then he shook my hand, shouldered the coil of wire, and disappeared into that indescribable ossuary. Is the podcast going? Podcast is going good. Reading a short story. For a minute I kept sight of the glow of his lantern, heard the rustle of wire as he laid it down after him, but the glow soon disappeared abruptly, as if a turn in the stone staircase had been encountered. The sound died away almost as quickly. I was alone, yet bound to the unknown depths by those magic strands whose insulated surface lay green beneath the beams of the waning crescent moon. What? You unmuted yourself. I thought he was going to stay muted. I constantly consulted my watch by the light of the electric lantern and listened with feverish anxiety at the receiver of the telephone, but for more than a quarter of an hour heard nothing. Then a faint clicking came from the instrument, and I called down to my friend in a tense voice. Apprehensive as I was nevertheless unprepared for the words which he came up that uncanny vault in accents more alarmed and quivering than I had ever heard before from Harley Warren. He who had so calmly left me a while ago previously, now called from a shaky whisper more pretentious than the loudest shriek. God, if you could see what I'm seeing! I could not answer. Speechless, I could only wait. Then the frenzied tones again. Carter, it's terrible, monstrous, unbelievable! This time my voice did not fail me, and I poured into the transmitter a flood of excited questions. Terrified, I continued to repeat, Warren, what is it? What is it? Once more came the voice of my friend, still hoarse with fear, but now apparently tinged with despair. I can't tell you, Carter. It's too utterly beyond thought. I dare not tell you. No man could know it and live. Great God, I have never dreamed of this. Stillness again, save now for my incoherent torrent of shuddering. Then the voice of Warren at a pitch of wilder consternation. Carter, for the love of God, put back the slab and get out of this as quick as you can. Quick. Leave behind everything and make for the outside. It's your only chance. Do as I say and don't ask me to explain. I heard, yet was only able to repeat my frantic questions. Around me were the tombs and the darkness and the shadows. Below me some peril beyond the radius of human imagination. But my friend was in greater danger than I, and through my fear I felt a vague resentment that he should deem me capable of deserting him for such circumstances. More clicking, and after a pause a piteous cry from Warren. Beat it! For God's sake, put back the slab and beat it, Carter! Something in the boyish slang of my evidently stricken companion unleashed my faculties. I formed and shouted a resolution. Warren, brace up! I'm coming down! But at this offer, the tone of my auditor changed to a scream of utter despair. Don't! You can't understand! It's too late, and my own fault! Put back the slab and run! There's nothing else you or anyone can do now! The tone changed again, this time acquiring a softer quality, as of hopeless resignation, yet it remained tense through anxiety for me. Quick, or it's too late! I tried not to heed him, tried to break through the paralysis which held me, and to fulfill my vow to rush down to his aid. His next whisper found me still, held inert in the chains of stark horror. Carter, hurry! It's no use, you must go! Better one than two! The slab! A pause, more clicking, then the faint voice of Warren. Nearly over now. Don't make it harder. Cover up those damn steps and run for your life. You're losing time. So long, Carter. Won't see you again. Here Warren's whisper swelled into a cry that gradually rose to a shriek fraught with all the horror of the ages. Curse these hellish things! Legions, my God! Beat it! Beat it! Beat it! After that was silence. I I know not how many indeterminable eons I sat stupefied, whispering, muttering, calling, screaming into that telephone. Over and over again through those eons I whispered and muttered, called, shouted and screamed, Warren, Warren, answer me, are you there? And then there came to be the crowning horror of all, the unbelievable, unthinkable, almost unmentionable thing. I have said that eons seemed to pass after Warren shrieked forth his last despairing wail, that only my own cries now broke the hideous silence. But after a while there was further clicking in the receiver, and I strained my ears to listen. Again I called out, Warren, are you there? And in answer heard the thing which has brought this cloud over my mind. I do not try, gentlemen, to account for that thing, that voice, nor can I venture to describe it in detail, since the first words took away my consciousness, create a mental blank which reaches to the time of my awakening in the hospital. Shall I say that the voice was deep, hollow, gelatinous, remote, unearthly, inhuman, disembodied? What shall I say? It was the end of my experience, and this is the end of my story. I heard it, and knew no more. Heard it as I sat petrified in that unknown cemetery in the hollow, amidst the crumbling stones and falling tombs, the rank vegetation and the miasmal vapors. Heard it well up from the innermost depths of that damnable open sepulchre, as I watched amorphous necrophagous shadows dance beneath the accursed waning moon. And this is what it said. Fool, Warren is dead. End of the story.
Ooh, scary. Ooh,
I like that
spooky.
one. Shut up.
It's actually a good one. I've actually never read that one. Okay. My favorite story is The Terrible Old Man by H.P. Lovecraft. It's the very first one I read. This one's very, very short. But a little backstory on it. It was written on January 28th, 1920. The Terrible Old Man portrays the influence of Lord Dunstan in spite of his realistic setting. Several stories in Dunsay's The Book of Wonder in 1912 is in particular the probable adventure of the three literary men tale of attempted robberies that end badly for their perpetrators. Lovecraft introduces the fictional New England town of Kingsport in this story. The names of the three robbers reflect the influx of Italian, Portuguese, and Polish immigrants into New England, especially into Providence. The story was first published in the Tryout, July 1912. I told. Sorry. I need to have a sign on my door saying live streaming, do not disturb.
Yeah, right. I need one of those too.
I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna have a fucking whiteboard. Or get a poster board and or get a neon. I bet if I put a neon sign, they'd be like, what? I can't read it. Just kidding. Terrible Old Man by H.P. Lovecraft. It was the design of Angela Ritchie and Joe Cusack and Manuel Silvia to call on the terrible old man. This old man dwells all alone in a very ancient house on Water Street near the sea. It is reputed to both exceedingly rich and exceedingly feeble, which forms a situation very attractive to men of the profession of Monsieur Ritchie, Chesnick, and Sylvia, for that profession was nothing less dignified than robbery. The inhabitants of Kingsport say and think many things about the terrible old man, which generally keeps him safe from the attention of gentlemen like Mr. Ritchie and his colleagues, despite the almost certain facts that he hides a fortune of indefinite. This is what we were talking about earlier, that Lovecraft's pretty hard to read, and I've read him for a while, and he's still indefinite magnitude somewhere about his musty and venerable abode. He is, in truth, a very strange person, believed to have been a captain of an East Indian clipper ship in his day, so old that no one can remember when he was young, and so textured that few know his real name. Among the gnarled trees in the front yard of his aged and neglected place, he maintains a strange collection of large stones, oddly grouped and painted so that they resemble the idols in some obscure Eastern temple. This collection frightens away most of the small boys who love to taunt the terrible old man about his long white hair and beard, or to break the small pane windows of his dwelling with wicked missiles. But there are other things which frighten the older and more curious folk who sometimes steal up to the house to peer in through the dusty panes. These folks say that on a table in a bare room on the ground floor are many particular bottles, and each a small piece of lead suspended pendulum-wise from a string. And they say that the terrible old man talks to these bottles, addressing them by such names as Jack, Scarface, Long Tom, Spanish Joe, Peters, and Mate Ellis. And that whenever he speaks to a bottle, the little lead pendulum within makes certain indefinite vibrations as if in answer. Those who have watched the tall, lean, terrible old man in these particular conversations do not watch him again. But Angelo Ricci and Joe Cusack and Manuel Silvia were not of Kingsport blood. They were of the new and heterogeneous, again, talking about it using big words with Lovecraft, alien stock, which lies outside the charmed circle of New England life and transitions, and they saw in the terrible old man merely a tottering, almost helpless graybeard who could not walk without the aid of his knotted cane, and whose thin, weak hands shook pitifully. They were really quite sorry in their way for the lonely, unpopular old fellow whom everybody shunned and whom all the dogs barked singularly. But business is business, and to a robber whose soul is his profession, there is a lure and a challenge about a very old and very feeble old man, who has no account at the bank and who pays for his few necessities. God, I cannot talk today. It's too early. At the village store with Spanish gold and silver minted 2 centuries ago. Messieurs Ricci, Cheslek, and Sylvia selected the night of April 11th for their call. Mr. Ricci and Mr. Sylvia were to interview the poor old gentleman, with Mr. Chesnick waited for them in their presumed metallic burden with a covered motor car in Ship Street, by the gate in the tall rear wall of their host's grounds, despite to desire to avoid needless explanations in case of an unexpected police intrusion prompted them. These plans were quite an
unostentatious
departure. God damn. See, it's all. As prearranged, the 3 adventurers started out separately in order to prevent any evil-minded suspicion afterward. Messieurs Ricci and Sylvia met in Water Street by the old man's front gate, and though they did not like the way the moon shone down upon the painted stones through the budding branches of the gnarled trees, they had more important things to think about than more idle superstitions. They feared it might be unpleasant work making the terrible old man loquacious. It was concerning his hoard gold and silver, for 8 seed captains are notably stubborn and preserved. Still, he is very old and very feeble, and there were 2 visitors. Messieurs Ricci and Sylvia were experienced in the art of making unwilling persons vulnerable, and the screams of a weak explanation. Give me a minute. Hold my spot.
And now for a word from our sponsors. Hey kids, come by on Thursdays for D&D and join the church at the promised meal.
No. Come by Rockstar. No, I'm kidding. Scream a weak and exponentially venerable men can be easily muffled, so they moved up onto the one lighted window and heard the terrible old man talking childishly to his bottles with pendulums. Then they donned masks and knocked politely at the weathered-stained oak door. Waiting seemed very long to Mr. Chesnick as he fidgeted restlessly in the covered motor car by the terrible old man's back gate in Ship Street. He was more than ordinary tender-hearted, and he did not like the hideous screams he had heard in the ancient house just after the hour appointed for the deed. Had he not told his colleagues to be as gentle as possible with the pathetic old sea captain? Very nervously he watched the narrow oaken gate in the high ivy-clad stone wall. Frequently he consulted his watch and wondered at the delay. Had the old man died before revealing where his treasure was hidden? And had a thorough search become necessary? Mr. Chesnick did not like to wait so long in the dark in such a place. Then he sensed a soft treading or tapping on the walk inside the gate, heard a gentle fumbling at the rusty latch, and saw the narrow, heavy door swing inward. And the pallid glow of the single dim street lamp, he strained his eyes to see what his colleagues had brought out of that sinister house which loomed so close behind. But when he looked, he did not see what he expected, for his colleagues were not there at all, but only the terrible old man leaning quietly on his notched cane, and smiling hideously. Monsieur Chesnick had never before noticed the color of the man's eyes. Now he saw that they were yellow. Little things make considerable excitement in little towns, which is the reason that Kingsport people talked all about that spring and summer about the three unidentified bodies, horribly slashed as with many cutlass, and horribly mangled as by the tread of many cruel boot heels, which the tide washed in. And some people even spoke of things as trivial as the deserted motor car found in Strip Street, or certain especially inhuman cries, probably of a stray animal or a migratory bird, heard in the night by wakeful citizens. In this idle village gossip, the terrible old man took no interest at all. He was by nature reserved, and when one is aged and feeble, one's reserve is doubled strong. Besides, so ancient a sea captain must have witnessed scores of things much more stirring in the far-off days of his unremembered youth. End of story. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, some
Clap.
the way he writes, it's some like Rockstar is having trouble with like some of these words are words that aren't used that much anymore outside of a university English class.
Right, and
So
I'm also still waking up because I've read
also
The
that.
Terrible Old Man a lot of times, and usually I don't fumble with those words. But again, if you're interested in reading Lovecraft,
I put links to the 2 stories we read in chat. Sorry. I put links to those 2 stories in chat, and there's a bunch more on this website from too.
oh yeah, the
Most of
official
these
Lovecraft.
stories are public domain.
Yeah, which is why we're able to read them. Otherwise, we would have been sued up the ass.
No,
Well,
I think it would have been fine.
true, because we're citing that this not our original work; it's Lovecraft. Yeah. If you're interested in how the book we have, it's called H.P. Lovecraft: The Complete Fiction. You can get it off BarnesandNobles.com. Not sponsored. For about $20, $25. Not too bad for a big collection of his stories.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we can see here before, Lovecraft doesn't just write about Cthulhu. We've seen that he talks about other.
He wrote a poem about Poe.
Right, because he was heavily inspired by Poe at the age of 8. Yep. Which in turn, like, it was funny because he was inspired by Poe, and now he's regarded as one of the, the kings of horror, right next to Poe. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. I'll be right back because I swear to God, I can't fucking get a goddamn minute to do a podcast.
I mean, that's why I didn't want to do it this early, but I don't have a choice now. Yay, work. So, we're here. I don't know how many live you have, but this is gonna go on YouTube. Probably tonight when I get home from. I mean, I could do it right after we're done. Could do that. It's just a simple export. Take long. Yeah, I also post a link chat.
All right, I'm back. Apologies. Don't like
No
to
problem.
snap, but that's some things. Anyway, where was I? I was stuck at the. Yes. I mean, I guess we talk about things that. I mean, I'm a huge, as I said, I'm a huge fan of Lovecraft to the point I have a lot of things Lovecraftian in my house besides the books. And I got the board games, which we talked about. I have a dice bag that's a Cthulhu bag. It's a dice hold the bag of
Oh
devouring.
yeah, you showed me that.
Yeah, I brought it to one of our game nights, and I showed Vastin a picture that I have a Cthulhu statue that's based off. They described in the story, the Call of Cthulhu. I actually have that little statue. It's a little, I guess it's ceramic. It's like it's sturdier than ceramic. It's like resin or something like that.
What, the dice?
No, the statue. I showed you a picture of.
Oh
I'll put
yeah.
it in. I'll put it in the Discord chat in a second. Yeah, my little Cthulhu statue. It's a little, but actually, this is kind of cool. I found it online. People have actually put it online. They put it in their little aquariums because it can stay in the aquarium.
It's probably made out of resin. Then.
That's what it is. That's the name of it. So I got Eldritch Horror, which we never played. I've seen it played on YouTube, but we never got a chance to play it.
So we need to do another game night.
We do. Steph needs to have a day off so we can go down to Charleston.
All right.
She said hopefully soon she'll be able to. She let me know.
Oh,
and then
did I tell you I got a new game?
What?
It's called Splendor. I got it at Walmart. It was only $9.
Splendor?
Yeah, it actually came with a Steam code inside it. It's like one of these.
Is it a knockoff of Slender Man?
No. It's one of those resource management games, sort of. But you get gemstones, and then you can acquire developments, which will get you prestige. Then the more prestige you have, you get better developments, and then noble patrons will contribute, because prestige is ultimately determine who wins. So whoever has the most prestige wins. It shouldn't be too bad.
Right. 1 second, because I'll find that picture of my little Cthulhu statue. I'll put it in the Discord. Oh yeah, that's I just looked at that. There's another thing inspired by Lovecraft. Something I like.
Which is
Call of Duty Zombies.
Oh, of course.
Black Ops 3's map, Shadows of Evil, was heavily inspired by the works of Lovecraft. I mean, you have it being in a New England setting town known as fictional Morgue City. You turn into a tentacled monster. The Apothicans and the Watchers, or the Keepers, look like things right out of Lovecraft. They started kind of doing that with the third Black Ops game.
Yeah.
Which, like, the Agartha, not the Agarthas, yes, the Keepers and the Shadow Man, and like if you play Shadows of Evil, like it's really heavily inspired. Even the mystery box is like at like 10, like it looks like pretty much it looks just right out of Lovecraft. If you've seen that map,
Yeah, I think I've seen it.
I might live stream it one of these days. Which now into is that you can
Oh
catch
yeah,
me doing
here.
solo live streams. You can catch me doing solo live streams once in a blue moon, whenever the fuck I feel like doing it. I don't have a
Yeah,
set schedule yet.
go follow him and turn on the
Yeah.
little bell notification so you can see when he's live. Also do that for me. I would greatly appreciate it if you guys keep coming
Only do
back
it.
because
Only do it for me.
I enjoy
Do it for
seeing
me.
you guys.
Do it for me
Only
only.
do it for you. Thanks.
Do it for me. No, just kidding.
Thanks.
I've given you shout outs every
I
episode.
know.
Yeah, I'll be playing like Dead by Daylight as like the last one I did. I did Call of Duty Black Ops 4. I gotta give a shout out to Blast right here because he helped me get because I had problems with my very first one. It kept cutting out, which nobody really watched except for him, so it worked for me.
Yeah. You're
I got
welcome
sick.
for fixing all that.
I told you I thanked you and I appreciated it and it works fine. Will I be doing Easter eggs for Call of Duty Zombies? Maybe Infinite Warfare. I won't be doing it for people. I'll just show you how to do it and maybe show you how to do little things. I haven't really decided yet if I'm going to do like a game series, like kind of thing, like play them in order and how Vaseline does it over here.
I need to do. I think Wednesday I'm gonna jump back on Vampire again. Now that I'm done with Destiny stuff for the event.
Don't know yet. Might do some Friday the 13th with my other buddies if they want to do that. They stream on Mixer. I used to stream on Mixer, but oh, careful.
I might go to Mixer. I don't know yet.
It's easier, but you know, with Twitch and everything, it's
well because of all the. I mean, I know a lot of people from Twitch are switching over to Mixer, not just because of the whole ninja thing, but because of how they're treating longtime supporters with questionable names but haven't been flagged before and all
right.
this other stuff. It's like getting weird. It's getting weird.
The one thing I can thank Mixer for is getting me Willard Weiler in Infinite Warfare because a guy, all I had to do was he was live streaming it right then.
Yeah.
All you had to do was just follow him on Mixer and then send him a message. He said, "Invite to a party," and he did the entire fucking thing for you. Got
wow.
It's like, yay! He fucking sped run through it. Like it took him like fucking 20 minutes.
Jesus.
It usually takes me about like depending on variables, it takes me about like 45 and half an hour to 45 minutes to do any of those fucking Easter eggs. I mean, shit.
I mean,
side note,
if you do it long enough.
Right. And but that fucking boss battle is just fucking ridiculous. I think I've showed it to you.
But was it the Mistopheles battle?
Yeah. He fucking sped. What he does is he does the entire battle, and then except for the last 2 hits, then he invites you. He gets 3 people, and then he invites them. Then he does it, and then he redoes it. He does it like for like 4 hours. He'll keep replaying the same map, and I would be like, Jesus Christ, I'm done. Because I fucking did Easter eggs for people in the past, and I got fucking sick and tired of it. Which is why I tell everybody.
If you're gonna do it and you're gonna grow your channel that way, that's a good way to do it, though.
Right, but people will just go like, "Oh, I need this help," but when they figure I can't do the last map on the Easter egg.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know. I know some of the Black Ops 3 Easter eggs. The only one I ever did was the giant, because the other ones you need like more players.
Yeah.
Like if I do Easter eggs, I'll just kind of show people how do you do them, like explain. I was trying to do that with Black Ops 4. I was going to show people how to do the ray gun Mark II and Alpha Omega, the Mark II upgrades. Show them little tricks, how to survive. But if you want to check me out, follow me. Totally fine. I don't have a dedicated stream time. It'd probably be at night most of the times when I get off work. Do it for about an hour and a half.
His will be at night. So if you're looking for a good person, I'm not streaming at night anymore. Go watch him.
Might do it in the morning. Like for yesterday, we tried live streaming. We had our problems. I'm not gonna go into that.
Yeah, because my mother decided, oh, you're gonna cook this meat your sister was supposed to cook 3 days ago. I'm like, why are you telling me to do this now?
Um,
I was understandably pissed that day.
yeah. How was grilling the meat in the rain?
Oh yeah, it was totally fun. The storm started, like thunder and lightning started right when it was done. I'm like, fucking kidding me.
Uh, you don't have like you know you
Dumb.
could. I was gonna tell you could have put it in a pan.
Oh, and yeah, and that was my backup.
That and it would have been done faster.
Yeah.
But
No, it only took about 15 minutes, but
that
still.
pan, it would have taken you about like 7. You put it up. You put that some bitch up high.
Yeah, but then the outside gets cooked before the inside.
Right. Well, you cut it. That's what I do. Like I use if I'm doing like a pot roast in the crock pot, I saute it on the outside, but you have to like kind of like put slits in it,
Oh no, I
and
know,
then
I
it'll
know. Yeah.
right. Anyway, um,
I think we're.
I think this.
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's about it for love. Again, if you're interested, Vaslin has put a link to the website of the stories we just read, or there's a bunch of other stories. You might find one you really enjoy. My top 5 I highly recommend are The Call of Cthulhu, The Terrible Old Man, Pickman's Model, the Beast is called The Beast in the Cave. Give me a second. The Beast in the Cave and The Evil Clergy. They're my top 5 ones. Oh wait, and as a mention, Dagon. Those are my top stories that I love and I highly recommend because, except for Call of Cthulhu, they're kind of easier to read. But I think that's about it.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. We always appreciate it.
Yes.
Um,
Next either be Saturday or Sunday. We haven't really picked a
well,
set
Saturdays I'm doing Fox Den now. Saturday morning, because we can't do it Wednesdays anymore because the other guy has scheduling conflicts with his work now.
Okay, so it's Sunday mornings.
Yeah, Sunday will be me and Rockstar. I'm taking Monday and Tuesday mornings off, and Wednesday through Sunday I'm going to be streaming mornings either here or on SSG.
We'll be back for Borderlands 2. We've decided that Borderlands pre-sequel is now cursed.
It really is.
Because every time we tried that's why we haven't streamed in a while, because every time we're about to do it, something comes up. So I've considered it cursed.
Yeah, either his end or my end, so
we're going to be starting on Borderlands 2.
Yep.
Which, even though that Borderlands 3 is coming out in a couple weeks,
we're going to try and speed through it.
We'll try our best to speed through it. I mean, Borderlands 3 will be out way before then, and then we'll have each individually probably have beaten it solo, and then that'll work great for that. But we will not be playing. We have still not played the Borderlands 2 new DLC.
The new DLC.
We have not played it.
I'll talk to you about that stream. But thank you everyone for coming. We always appreciate it. We hope you have a good day.
See you later.